Hey everybody, and welcome to the FPL show. I'm a little bit pumped this week because it's a huge weekend of returns. We've got the lovely Jules Breach back with us. Nice to see you again, Jules.
Thanks for having me back.
No, it's terrific to have you here. And also, quite important as well, the Premier League is back this weekend.
It is.
So loads of drama and excitement and battles and controversy. And also the Premier League will be quite exciting.
It will be, it will be. It's just nice to be here, keeping Kelly's seat warm for 1 week only. And I can confirm that this show definitely makes you better at FPL because since leaving, I can't even beat you now, James.
Well, I mean, that's...
It's just...
All right, well, yeah.
So I'm back for a week to try and get ahead of you again.
OK, good.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck. Let's have a look at what's coming up in today's show. And it's just like old times, isn't it? Jules on the sofa there, Mo Salah and Harry Kane up on our menu of what's coming up. Mo Salah, by the way, massively owned, but not been returning in the last couple of weeks. Only 2 assists, no goals. Is that going to continue? And should we be looking elsewhere for our captaincy options? And Harry Kane, is he back again? He has scored 8 goals in the last month, but 7 of those have been for England. So should we wait until he does it against somebody not called Albania or San Marino or Newcastle before we leap on him?
Possibly. And with 4 goal involvements in his last 3 appearances, Reece James is one of the many premium defenders who are proving rather popular this season. But who's the best one to go for? We'll talk about that. And high-flying West Ham have scored 7 goals in their last 2 matches, but that man Mikel Antonio somehow failed to get a single attacking return, probably because he's in my team. So is it time to sell, or is it just a bit of bad luck? All of that and plenty more to come across the next hour.
Brilliant. All right, we've got some amazing guests for you. Let's meet them. In from FPL Black Box and Fantasy Football Scout, it's Az Phillips. Lovely to see you, Az. While over here, we have Gianni Buttice of Fantasy Football Fest. Great stuff. 2 top experts from the world of FPL kind of knowledge. And you, Az, are off to a brilliant start this season. You're up in the top checks notes, 9K in the world.
Impressive.
Yeah, I know. I don't really know what's going on this season, but something's working.
Almost doing as well as Brighton in the league.
Nearly.
Nearly.
Is that your best ever start, Az?
It's got to be, yeah.
Really?
I mean,
You haven't checked?
Well, it's hard to... I mean,
You're lying, you've checked. It's definitely your best ever start.
When I finished in the top 1K, I was nowhere near the top 10K at this stage. I was 100,000, 200,000, something like that. So I don't think I've ever been this high up at this part of the season. So it can only go downhill, right?
Ahead of where you were when you finished in the top 1K.
100%, yeah, for sure.
So, you know.
No, it could be a good one. Could be a good one.
Pay attention in the course of today's show. You might pick up some useful.
And Gianni, you've done well as well. Not quite as standards, but you're in the top 100K, which is decent.
Yeah, top 1% I'm always aiming for, so nice to be there so early. And yeah, it's positive for the kind of really busy festive period. You want to be going into that period on a good rank. So yeah, it's exciting times ahead.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? 10 game weeks to come in the space of 45 days. The international breaks are done and dusted now, right up until March. So this is a really busy time. It can get quite stressful, though.
Yeah, it's like Christmas has come early for FPL managers. We love all the fixtures, so it's really exciting to have so many. You've really got to plan ahead, though, and you've got to think of your bench points and all sorts. So, yeah, it's a busy and exciting time.
All right, if you love fixtures, check out what we've got in store this weekend and what we're calling Game Week 12. Game Week 12 kicks off with Leicester against Chelsea on Saturday at the King Power. The Foxes have a pretty good record against the West Londoners, losing just 1 of their last 7 league meetings. However, it's worth noting that Leicester have only kept 1 clean sheet in their last 17 matches. Then, 6 games at 3 o'clock UK time. Steven Gerrard will be in the Aston Villa dugout for the first time as they host Brighton. Crystal Palace, who are unbeaten in 6 now, head to Burnley. Eddie Howe takes charge of his first match as Newcastle boss against Brentford at St James's Park. The Magpies, of course, now the only team in the league without a win so far this season. And Dean Smith has his first game as Norwich manager, curiously against Southampton, the very same team he faced whilst in charge of Aston Villa 2 weeks ago before Villa fired him for losing to Saints. Should be interesting.
Should be. And continuing with those 3 o'clock kickoffs, Watford are hosting a Manchester United side who've now won just 1 of their last 6 league matches. And worryingly for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the Red Devils haven't won any of their last 3 games against newly promoted sides. Wolves host West Ham, who've now won 4 league games in a row, whilst the late kick-off on Saturday sees Liverpool taking on Arsenal at Anfield. We'll be focusing on that fixture in more detail in a bit. On Sunday, Manchester City face Everton. The Toffees have lost their last 7 league meetings with Pep's side. And then Game Week 12 concludes with Antonio Conte's first home league game as the Spurs boss, with Leeds the visitors in North London. And remember, Tottenham haven't had a single shot on target in their last 5 halves of Premier League football. It is crazy, but are things about to turn?
I
Wait
don't
and
know,
see.
Jules. That's a big question, and it's one we're going to be tackling very, very shortly in the course of today's show. The deadline for your teams, do you know when that is, Jules?
Saturday.
Yeah, just get your teams in by Saturday. It'll be fine. If you like, to be on the safe side, maybe by 11 o'clock in the morning UK time, 90 minutes before Leicester and Chelsea play.
Indeed, and you can see the Liverpool and Arsenal players there were reminding us all to get our teams in by that deadline on Saturday morning UK time. And that's because they're also getting ready for their fixture this weekend against each other. Before we talk about the FPL assets from that game, who we should be considering for our teams, let's take a look at what happened in the corresponding game last season.
Here goes Maitland-Niles. Lacazette is sprinting up into the box. Maitland-Niles saw instead Willian. It came off Robertson and it's scrambled in by Lacazette. And Arsenal snatched the lead at Anfield. Firmino. And Salah. And Mane. One each. It took them next to no time. Lifted in by Alexander-Arnold, and Robertson scores! And the moment when Liverpool, for the first time on the evening, establish a lead. In by Alexander-Arnold, back out by Luis, and Jota scores this time! Diogo Jota marks his Liverpool Premier League debut with a goal.
Liverpool and Arsenal are going at it this Saturday in the Premier League at Anfield. Interesting game this, huge you might say from an FPL perspective. Arsenal one of the form teams right now, and they've got a host of hot FPL targets for managers worldwide. And Liverpool too have 1 or 2 popular players of their own, not least the most popular player in FPL, and that's Mo Salah, owned by 71.6% of managers worldwide. Now, as he hasn't actually scored a goal in his last 2 games. He has contributed 2 assists. Is that run, do you think, going to continue? Should we be worried by it? And should we be looking elsewhere when we think about captaincy?
I think it's very hard to go against him for the captaincy. I mean, even when he's been blanking, he's still been returning something, which is exactly what you want from your captain anyway. Liverpool was still statistically the best attack in the league. They've got a few injuries, which I think we need to monitor. There was some rumours about Mane not being quite right, and Robertson as well, which obviously weakens them a little bit. Firmino's out as well, of course. But realistically, it's Mo Salah. He's on penalties. He's the most informed player in the league. It's very, very hard to back against him.
OK, you can't disagree with that, can you, Jenny?
Can't. His Champions League form has been really good in recent weeks as well. He's been scoring there. I mean, arguably, this is the most informed player in world football, not just in the Premier League. So we're so lucky to have him in the Premier League. And he's been a perma-captain for many in the last few weeks, and someone I'm definitely looking at for the armband again.
OK.
And you mentioned those injuries. It's not been the kindest international break for Liverpool, has it? But focusing on the attacking players, Mane potentially could be back, but Firmino is definitely on the sidelines for this one. Does that make Diogo Jota, who we saw scored on his Liverpool debut in the Premier League last season, in this exact fixture, does it make him the really smart pick?
Absolutely. I think when you're looking at Jota, you always look at the rotation with Firmino. That's always a bit off-putting, because you wonder if they're going to share minutes. But with him out, you think Jota's going to start. There's the African Cup of Nations coming in January as well, which is around the time when Firmino's due back. So Jota will probably carry on starting as well if Mane and Salah go off to that. He's a bit of a frustrating player. I looked at some data from him last season. When he plays over 45 minutes, he blanks in over half of his games. He had no double-digit hauls. His stats, though, he's the 10th most likely to be involved in a goal out of all players in the league. So his underlying stats are there. He just never quite delivers, which is frustrating, but I think he's a great option.
Is it the time now, though, Gianni? And one of the benefits you have, I guess, with owning a player like Jota, if you can fit him into your midfield, is that if you also have Salah, which most of us do, they're usually one of them are going to be involved, and sometimes for each other. Yeah,
really nice double up there. I mean, I think at 7.5 million as a midfielder, he is an absolute gift, to the point where last week I jumped on him. I was happy to go really early. We saw it was likely Firmino was going to be out. But even when Firmino is back playing, Jota still gets a huge amount of minutes. There's good rotation there. We've seen both Firmino and Jota play together, and we've seen Mane bench, for example, at Old Trafford recently. So, yeah, I think he's too good to ignore at that price in that position.
All right. Stick him on the shopping list. You mentioned the fact that Andy Robertson may be out. Now, if that's the case, what do we think about Tsimikas, who was such a hot favourite at the start of the season? So cheap as well, 3.9. Does he come back into our thinking?
He does. It depends on the length of Robertson's injury. If it's just a couple of weeks,
right.
I don't think making a transfer to... the problem is exactly like the start of the season. You get stuck with him.
Right.
And then if you want Jota, Trent and Salah, for example, you're going to have to move Tsimikas out, use a transfer on that. It all just gets a bit messy. If Robertson's out for a while, a month, and you've got all of the Christmas fixtures, he's a great pick at 3.9.
OK, let's switch our attention to Liverpool's opponents, Arsenal, then, and Aaron Ramsdale, who has been in such hot form, Gianni.
Yeah.
But is there a danger starting him in this one?
I'm not so sure. I'm very happy starting him.
Really?
I do have triple Liverpool, of course, but Ramsdale seems to be just making saves galore this season. So he will be worked. And yes, you probably can... you expect him to concede a goal, but he'll get lots of save points. And he does really well in the bonus points, Ramsdale, because his pass completion is really high. He's a footballing goalkeeper. He's a bit like last season's Martinez, just a bonus points magnet. So I like him.
So do you think he's fixture-proof then?
I mean, he's not who I'd choose to play this week away at Liverpool, but, I've got Ben Foster on the bench as well, who's got United, who's also not too good a game. I think out of those two, I'd play Ramsdale. I think Arsenal have got a better chance of keeping Liverpool out if they can. But as Jenny mentioned, the save points are great, but it's not all about 1 week with the goalkeepers. You've just got to ride these ones out every now and then.
OK.
What about Emil Smith-Rowe, or as I like to call him, Emil scored in 3 games in a row? Is it time to bring him in, or would you wait until maybe the Liverpool game has gone and then jump on it? Because he starts all the time, he's dead cheap, and, as I say, he's been returning.
Yeah, he's a really funny one, because his underlying stats are rubbish. Right. He's chipping in with these goals when he shouldn't be, but he is so assured in that side, and he's one of the main reasons why Arsenal have been so good. Recently, him and Saka, for example, and Ramsdale just look great options. I wouldn't be getting him this week.
You wouldn't?
I wouldn't be. I think if you've got Brentford players going forwards, he's an easy switch from someone like Mbomo or maybe Tony in a formation switch. I do like him. 5.8. His price is going up, though. You don't want to get priced down.
It is a bit, isn't it? They got Newcastle the week after. Yeah. Liverpool this week. Last time they played a top 4 side, they got beaten 5-0 by Man City, of course. Arsenal. What do you think? Wait a week?
Yeah, I think I'm with Az there. I'd happily wait a week, but definitely someone for the watch list. Right. I mean, yes, his underlying stats aren't great, but that shows that he's a really clinical finisher. He doesn't need many chances to score a goal, and we like that in FPL. So yeah, definitely one for the watch list. He's guaranteed starts, which perhaps we didn't have last season with him.
Right. Keep an eye on Emil Smith-Rowe. Brilliant. Well, there's 1 or 2 options for Arsenal and their opponents, Liverpool. Meantime, Arsenal's North London rivals Spurs have big changes afoot with Antonio Conte now in charge there. So let's have a look at 1 or 2 top Tottenham targets.
Well, the Antonio Conte era at Tottenham didn't get off to the flying start that Spurs fans would have liked. Goalless draw at Everton in game week 11, but his first home game as the Spurs boss is this weekend. They host Leeds at home, and it's a pretty nice-looking run of fixtures on the way as well. As when we look at them, a lot of green, particularly in terms of the nice fixtures, the next 4, 5, 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, we often talk about form versus fixtures, and often fixtures breeds form, because it's hard to get form when you've got a tough run. If Spurs are going to start clicking, you've got to think it's going to be in these next 4 games. I think Leeds at home is quite a tricky game. They've got Phillips back, they've got Llorente. I'm not expecting them to go crazy in this game. Conte hasn't had much time to work with them. The international break, I think, came at a really bad time for him. If you look at some numbers of Kane, for example, I talked about expected goal involvement, 68th on the list of all players for expected goal involvement.
Wow.
27th best forward. And you think there's barely any forwards that we're even considering. Kane is so far down the list when it comes to form. There's nothing that indicates he's going to turn it round other than the goals in the international break.
Right, which is something, I suppose, the fact that he looked happy to be on a football pitch.
Yeah,
which is something.
Now he's got to go back to Spurs, and he just doesn't have those creative players around him that can really benefit him. Conte's got to work some magic there.
Right.
I think this game's a little bit too early for it.
There are creative players, though, at Spurs. But as Az points out, when you're looking at a striker who costs the price that Kane does and has had 1 shot in all of his last 3 games in the Premier League. What do you think?
It doesn't make for great reading, but
you're considering him.
Yeah, the big difference is Antonio Conte, an elite manager that's historically always done well with his number 9s.
Right.
Look at Diego Costa at Chelsea, scored loads of goals for Conte. Lukaku at Inter, loads of goals. Conte doesn't like his number 9s dropping deep into that 9.5, 10 role, which Kane has done in recent seasons. Kane won't be allowed to leave that penalty box. And when he's got the midfield creators, there's a few at Spurs, but now you add in the wing-backs as well. You've got Emerson Royal and Reguilon, and in years gone by, Kane hasn't had that service from full-backs. He'll have wing-backs now. I'm expecting lots of points for Harry Kane. He's definitely one I want to bring in the not-too-distant.
And what about Sonny then? Because despite the fact that, as you've just pointed out, Tottenham attacking-wise have been really poor this season as a team, Son's actually still got 4 goals and 2 assists so far. So is he actually the safer pick?
I think he's the better pick at the moment if we go on recent performances, and he looks motivated, he's getting into the right areas. Conte might shift to this 3-5-2, which puts him up front, makes him out of position as well. And I think they've got to look to get the most out of him, because the dynamic between him and Kane is going to be so important for them going forward. He's the one I'd pick if I was going to go for either of them. But obviously it can depend on your team structure. But I think Son, I mean, he's 2 million cheaper as well. I think he's the pick of the two for me.
What do you think, Gianni? Because you've just sold us Harry Kane.
Yeah.
So what about Son?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Son is a good pick. I just prefer Kane. I mean, Conte likes to play a front 2, and I think we will see Son and Kane central down the middle together. Lautaro Martinez and Lukaku at Inter. We saw at Chelsea Hazard playing off Giroud at the end of Conte's reign. Saying that, I think Son will get some rotation. I think he won't always get 90. Kane will. We've seen Son substituted in both Conte's first 2 games. Penalty appeal with Kane, talisman. For me, I'm happy spending that little bit extra for Harry.
What do you think? Are you swayed by this at all? Are you going to wait and see, and maybe then, if he scores a couple of goals, for example, Kane this weekend?
I think it's the plan. I mean, I want to see them against Leeds. If they go another game without a shot, you've just got to think, when is this going to happen? I want to see a better performance from Spurs in general.
Right.
I'd like to see them take a shot. I'd like to see Kane getting into those advanced...
I'd like to see them take a shot.
Yeah, I really would.
It would be
and
good.
I want to see Kane in the box, as Gianni mentioned. I think that's the key thing with him. If he is allowed to drop deep and create from the midfield, because there isn't a huge amount of creativity in the middle.
But there are these wing-backs that Gianni was mentioning. And on the subject of them, which, if either, would you consider having in your team for their own sake?
Yeah, I think Emerson Royal maybe just edges it. You save a little bit of money. And if we're to go off the substitutions, and it's a very small sample size, Conte's had 2 games, one in the Premier League where Reguilon did come off late. Matt Doherty came on the left side. He wanted Emerson on that pitch, who looked a little bit more dangerous. But what we saw with both of them was, when one of them's getting forward crossing the ball, the other one is encouraged to get in the box and get on the end of that cross.
Wow.
So both wing-backs are as high as the Chelsea wing-backs that Thomas Tuchel plays with, Reece James and Chilwell. So we'll see these guys getting into those goal-scoring opportunities.
So Royal for you, and Az?
Yeah, I mean, Royal's the one I've been most impressed with in the 2 games under Conte. He was very, very attacking, particularly in the Europa League conference game. And as Jan said, playing really high up the pitch. I don't think there's a huge amount in it between them. They're around the same price. They're both going to get returns, I think. I think they're both really good options that are going to go under the radar.
OK, very interesting. Right, we're going to be discussing premium defenders in a moment. But before that, let's hear from the Wolves centre-back, Max Kellerman.
This season, I would say Vardy. I think his movement, and he's got that personality where he's never going to give up on every ball and every chance. So you have to be very alert with him and very aware of him. I don't know, but I obviously try my best every time I have a chance to set piece. I do give it my best, but I don't think about scoring goals, I think about defending and doing well for the team, and that's my priority. I think definitely Saiz is the biggest threat in the air for me. I feel like his heading is very good. But I feel like Nelson, I think he can get a few more assists, and he's had a few good chances this season. So hopefully we can score more goals, not to rely just on the forwards, but everyone. We've got so many good attackers, to be honest, but of course Raul is our main goal scorer, so I'll pick Raul.
Kids, premium defenders, that's where it's at in today's FPL. They cost a bit of money, though, so which one to get? Helpfully, we've put together a list of what we think are the 7 best options. There they are for you. You've got your Trent, of course, João Cancelo, Ruben Dias, and then all the Chelsea boys. We're going to have a bit of a breakdown now on which one we think is the best. Let's start off by looking at which one of these guys produces the most points per match. And the answer may surprise you because it is, boom, sometime soon.
It's coming. It's coming.
There he is.
Ben!
Chilwell. Look at that. And he's way ahead of everybody else. 9 points, on average, 9 points per match. That's huge.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I guess if we look at recent weeks, you might think of Trent or Cancelo or Reece James as slightly performing better, but we can't forget when Chilwell got into that Chelsea 11, took the place of Alonso about six game weeks ago-ish. He hit the ground running, scoring goals, assists, so attacking. He's a really good FPL asset, always has been. We just need to know he's starting, and he is starting now. He looks nailed in that role.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Alonso as well, out with injury, so Chilwell's pretty much nailed on for that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing here that I notice is at the start of the season, there didn't seem to be too much between the centre-backs and the wing-backs or the full-backs. But now you look at that list and you see just how far ahead the full-backs and the wing-backs are compared to the centre-backs. I think you need to make the switch if you're still holding on to those centre-backs.
Yeah.
Wow.
As always, when you're spending a lot of money on these defenders, on any premium player, really, it's all about minutes.
Yeah.
So what we've done that's also quite helpful, we're very helpful on the show, aren't we? Is we've worked out the percentage of games that those 7 defenders have started when they've been available. So suspensions and injuries don't count. And there are 3 players that have a 100% record: Cancelo, Rudiger and Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm quite surprised by Cancelo up there, Gianni. Has Pep quit roulette?
I think he may have done. That's always been the biggest fear with players like Cancelo. Rudiger, Trent, you can bank on these minutes. Cancelo, historically, we haven't been able to. Well, this season we can. This stat proves it. In the Champions League, he started every game as well. For me, I mean, he's become Man City's, this season, you'd say Bernardo Silva and Cancelo have been their 2 best players. He's
You've
invaluable.
sold them, James, haven't you?
Yeah, maybe, but I might rebuy him a bit because
You should.
yeah, I think I probably should. I'm just curious actually about Ben Chilwell down at the bottom. Is that skewed by the fact that he really didn't start at the beginning of the season, but now it's probably not that he only does 1 game in 2?
Yeah, for sure. At the start of the season, Alonso got the pick. Alonso had the free summer, wasn't at the Euros. Chilwell wasn't in the best place. Tuchel came out and said that. Now he's nailed, and we'll start seeing Chilwell go into the sort of 80-90%. He becomes way more attractive.
Right, last 5 games in a row, actually, Chilwell's started. All right, let's throw up another stat now and see how that informs our opinion. XGI, expected goal involvement, of course. It's Trent who leads this category.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me so much.
That doesn't surprise you too much. All right, so you'd expect, based on the way that the game evolved, to him to be involved in a goal, 0.5, almost, well, a little bit more than half a goal a game, essentially.
I mean, it's an amazing stat for a fullback. These are like absolute elite numbers. And I mean, James isn't far off either. I mean, Liverpool's defence has been a little bit shaky recently, so you kind of need Trent to step up with his attacking returns, given his price. But he's doing it. I mean, he could just deliver a double-digit haul every week. He's such a great player.
Yeah. Johnny?
Yeah, I'm with Az on that. Like, this shows the power of the wing-back or the full-back over the centre-backs. You look at the top of that list, well, the top 4 are all very attacking full-backs or wing-backs, and that's why they just get forward and get those returns as well as those clean sheet points. The issue with Trent long-term is we need him to keep that performance level high. This season, we've seen it so far, but last season, he didn't always justify his price tag. This season, I've got no doubt he will. He's firing on all cylinders. We need it to stay high.
OK. Well, this is us trying to justify the attacking returns of these premium defenders, but ultimately, first and foremost, it's about clean sheets, right? So when we look at the big chances that those 7 premium defenders have faced, Man City have only faced 10 this entire season. Already, 10 in 11. That's incredible when you think about it. That's less than Chelsea and Liverpool. So should we all be maybe doubling up on City defenders?
You just can't get the ball off them. That's the problem. It's hard to create a chance when you physically just don't have the ball. I think it's what if you look at those numbers, you'd obviously think Trent is the superior option to Cancelo by quite a distance. But the fact Cancelo and Diaz are just going to keep getting these clean sheets means that his kind of floor, his base points, is almost always going to be 6, whereas Trent's starting from 2 or 3. Potentially, because they can concede. It's very, very close between them. I think we're going to talk about which one I'd pick out of those 2, but it's such a difficult choice.
Before we push you for a top 3, actually, of the 7, let's have a quick check on who the 3 teams involved in that these 7 players actually feature for, who they're going to be facing in the next 7 game weeks. Of these runs, which one do you think looks the hardest? Which one do you think looks the easiest, Gianni?
It's pretty even, isn't it? There's not much to swing it. You could argue City's is a little bit tricky at the start, but then that's a really nice run from 15 for City. You'd expect clean sheets in 3 or 4 of those from 15 to 18. Chelsea, same. It's a little bit scattered. We can't forget that for a lot of these fixtures, there's going to be midweek games as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So with that, you want the easier opposition when you're playing Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday. So yeah, it's pretty even. It's hard to say. I mean, Liverpool has the most green. Or non-red.
Non-red, yeah. Oh, OK, right. It's so hard to pick, but we're going to put you on the spot as you're the experts. So your top 3, names only, in order. So first, second and third. Go on, Gianni.
Cancelo would be my number 1. And then I would go Trent, followed by Reece James.
Yeah, one thing I did notice from the last table was City have 4 home games and the other 2 have 3, which obviously is a boost. Cancelo and Trent are clear for me. I think I'd pick Cancelo first. If I was going to sell, I just couldn't sell Cancelo, just given the 6s he's just going to keep
Quite easy to do it.
Yeah, sorry, James.
There was a
So
Manchester
Cancelo
derby.
and Trent.
Cancelo and Trent, and then Reece James.
Oh,
Yeah, same as
no
you.
one's picked Chilwell, who was the only one I've got. And I've got Trent as well.
I'm surprised. All right, well, that was fascinating. We're going to
Thanks,
take a very
guys.
quick break on the FPL show. When we return, we'll be checking out West Ham options ahead of their trip to Wolves, and we'll also be speaking to the number 2 FPL manager in the world. See you for that in a couple of minutes' time.